Since I've started doing YouTube part-time, I've been scheduling out my videos. I have a whole spreadsheet laying out all my videos and when I want to release them. But I constantly have to shift them because there is a priority, I guess, to these videos. First and foremost on the priority list is timed videos, like videos that need to come out at that time. Like, say I'm making a video about a movie that's coming out, or tied in with a movie that's coming out. I want to get that video out before the movie, or like when the movie drops or something like that. That's the first priority. Second priority is requested videos. Videos that people want to have asked about, people who have had questions that they want answered. And I figured, since I'm doing this part-time, a lot of the success is because of you guys. All of the success is pretty much because of you guys. And I figured, well, let's see if I can take any video requests from them. And then third on the list are videos that I just wanted to make. Now, keep in mind, I'm flexible here. I don't want to be doing nothing but like requested videos forever. So I will be willing to, bring up videos I wanted to make higher up on the docket when the time comes. But for now, I've been good with requested videos. This video was requested a while ago, depending on when it was requested yesterday when I'm recording this, but when it comes out might be a long time. So I know I said I had a big announcement video to make for today, but that's pushed out. That's pushed back to the next upload day. My big announcement, and it is a big announcement. You guys already know it. I've already said what it is on this channel, but whatever. But I was asked by this Twitter user to give my opinions on Transformers: The Basics, which is Chris McFeely's Transformers YouTube show. Or YouTube Transformers show. Now, I prefer to take requests from fans, but like this guy doesn't follow me on Twitter, so I don't know who he is or where he came from or how he knows about this channel. Or if he even keeps up, if he's even going to see this, if he's not followed me on Twitter, would it make sense for him to be subscribed to me on YouTube? I don't know. So this rando comes in asking about my thoughts on Transformers: The Basics. So the answer is complicated, so I'm going to tell the story here in a video form instead of just respond to him on Twitter. Now, the thing is, I did not want to talk about this subject. I did not want to talk about it. And I don't just mean what my thoughts on Transformers: The Basics is. It's beyond that. It's this whole story that I'm going to tell in this video. I didn't ever want to talk about it because I felt it would be... Well, I just didn't want to rock the boat, I didn't want to do something like that. I didn't want to bring attention to something. But at the same time, when I'm asked a question that could be a video, I don't want to give people... I don't want to lie to you guys, I don't want to, say opinions that aren't actually my opinions. And at the same time, I don't want to, ignore questions like that. They're actually good questions that have a whole answer behind them, a full-on answer. And so because of that, I kind of feel like I'm in a position where I have to talk about this to give my full opinion. So don't think of this as some sort of video intending to start drama or anything. That's not my intention. I just wanted to give an honest opinion out there. So, Transformers: The Basics. Ultimately, my opinion of Transformers: The Basics is it is the TF Wiki in video form. Okay, well, Radix, that doesn't really say if you have a good or bad opinion of the video. What do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? So we have to get into what my opinion on the TF Wiki is. So the TF Wiki, well, it's kind of a story with it. If you notice, my very first episodes of Transformers lore, it's either in the first one or the second one or both or one or the other, where at the credits I sort of give a shout out to the Transformers Wiki, thank you for being this resource for Transformers knowledge that helped me. I used TF Wiki to point me to sources. I didn't use Transformers Wiki as a source. I used it to point me to sources like appearances of characters and stuff like that, because for the most part they have a good record of this character appears here, 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 here. If you just read the headlines and look at the sourced little things in the corner of each sentence. But I had loved Transformers Wiki since I was really little. It had funny captions. It didn't take itself too seriously. So I liked the Transformers Wiki. By the time I was in college, I was doing Transformers lore videos, and I like the Transformers Wiki enough to do to have little shout-outs at the end saying thank you so much to the Transformers Wiki. I admire people like Chris McFeely who are able to, like, at a very short notice, write up full entries on different topics. I really like that. But as time went on, every now and then I would look at, like, sort of the discussion page, and of like Transformers Wiki articles. I'd go to the discussion page and see that there'd always be like this. Like, there'd always be these people who are, like, very disrespectful towards others, and I would read, like, the discussion page, like, oh, wow, that was rude. I'm just gonna back out from there. Very almost hostile environment in the discussion pages of those wiki pages. But as time went on, I sort of thought it was funny to see how hostile and, like, rude people were to each other in the discussion pages. And I was doing that, I started to notice a common theme. I started to notice reoccurring characters, and I started to realize the rudest people were, like, the admin mod group of the Transformers Wiki. And as I looked into it, it's very clear that the TF Wiki is controlled by a very select inner circle, a cliquey style inner circle, which of course wikis are run by mods and administrators. That makes sense, right? But it was sort of weird how cliquey these mods and admins were. Especially considering how sort of rude, there were many different instances of them just being rude and sort of harsh to the people in the discussion pages. As time went on, I came to realize that there was a forum, the Allspark forum, which was essentially had the same inner circle as the Transformers Wiki. And as I grew on Twitter, I realized that all these different wiki admins were, like, following each other on Twitter, and I have this preconceived notion of wiki being a community thing, like a community for everyone who may concern. The idea that the wiki admins and moderators were so tightly knit was weird to me, because I felt that for a balanced wiki, you would have people from all sides of the fandom, from the community, as part of the admin mod staff. It just seemed once you have, like, a clique, an inner circle of administrators, that effectively makes the wiki just for the administrators. And the more you look into the TF Wiki, the more you realize that it perpetuates different opinions that are held by the people of that inner staff and that inner circle. And a lot of Transformer fans use the Transformers Wiki, and what the wiki says sometimes influences their opinion. So a lot of the times you get people who have these opinions about Transformers that they didn't really form themselves. They have these different opinions about these different series just because the opinion was really pushed as a running gag or a theme on the Transformers Wiki that was created by the opinions of just that inner circle. And as time went on, as you look into it, there's some sketchy things going on about the Transformers Wiki admins and mods. I haven't looked into it too much, granted, so I won't say anything I've seen, but I would recommend on your own just checking out some stuff into the deep lore of the Transformers Wiki admins and mods. So as I was finding out that stuff, I was surprised, and, like, on Twitter, a lot of them sort of talked with the most condescending way you could imagine. So the Transformers Wiki was starting to lose its glamour for me. It just seemed very inner circle-y, and sort of ran by almost, I don't want to use, like, inflammatory words, but almost like power-hungry people that I guess don't have much in their real lives, and this isn't just a TF Wiki thing. This is actually a common theme I've seen in wikis. You've seen this on, like, Bulbapedia. There are other wikis where the wiki admins are kind of like this as a personality. They feel like they control the information for this fandom, and so they sort of might think they deserve something of, like, maybe some more respect, or have this idea that their word has more authority than another fan's word just because they run the wiki. Now, one of the major mods or admins, I'm not really sure about the name usage, like what the difference between a mod and an admin is on the Transformers Wiki. I'm just going to use them both interchangeably. You guys get the idea. But one of the key mods of the Transformers Wiki was Chris McFeely. And even though a lot of the other mods were very condescending, very rude, Chris McFeely, I thought, not only did he do work in a timely manner, but he also was kind of one of the more nicer people in that inner circle. So I always kind of looked up to Chris McFeely at that time. I really liked Chris McFeely. He was sort of like my model. He was the Transformers continuity nerd I aspired to be. I even shouted out to him, like I was making some sort of continuity video, and I asked if any other continuity people like had their opinion. Like maybe I'm missing something. Maybe some of you guys who know more stuff about me could explain this to me. And I specifically name dropped Chris McFeely. Like if you saw this, maybe you could explain it better. So, needless to say, I really looked up to Chris McFeely, And so I started up Transformers lore. There was really nobody on YouTube talking about the deep lore of Transformers, going into like the more intricacies. And I always felt that you should bring up something that isn't old to the. You should always bring up new stuff to the conversation, especially at that time. I believed that, and I thought, okay, the Transformers wiki's there. But there is a deeper lore. The Transformers Wiki is designed for a casual fan, designed for someone who maybe have not looked at Transformers in a while and wants to get a quick rundown of what's been happening. That's what it's designed for. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's just how it's designed. It's good for what it is. But I wanted to go into some deep lore stuff. Like, some of my favorite stuff about Elder Scrolls, for example, is like the Godhead and Kime and stuff like that. The weird deep lore stuff. I really enjoyed that stuff, so I wanted to bring that stuff to the general fandom because nobody was really talking about the deep lore stuff for Transformers. And so I grew Transformers lore. That series grew to be very popular. I eventually sort of became the main IDW Transformers G.I. Joe guy on YouTube, talking about that sort of side of the lore. And when Revolution happened, when they merged the G.I. Joe and Transformers stuff together, they came out with an issue, Revolution number 0, and I thought it was great. But Chris McFeely, who didn't read the G.I. Joe stuff, was confused about some of the characters to put them in the Transformers Wiki, and I was talking about them, and then he asked me some questions, and I'm freaking out because my continuity hero, Chris McFeely, is talking to me, asking me questions about G.I. Joe continuity, and I was able to give that information to him, and it was put up on the Transformers Wiki, and I was like, wow, that's great. And then come to find out, Chris McFeely was starting to get everything started for Transformers The Basics, which was his Transformers series on YouTube. That essentially is just the TF Wiki in YouTube form. And I was like, okay, this is great. We'll have another Transformers YouTube community member. At that time there was this Transformers community of me, Diamond Bolt, Rodimus Primal, Eddie Dwan, Comet and Cam, and a lot more, and I was like, okay, it's good to have more Transformer channels that don't just talk about the toys, but actually talk about the stores and stuff, so I was like, yes, that's cool. I did think it was kind of weird that, there wasn't a need for Transformers The Basics, because Transformers The Basics covered the basics, but so did Rodimus Primal. Rodimus Primal sort of covered the basics. He did his retrospective videos, and every now and then he would get into some slightly deeper lore content. So the purpose of Transformers The Basics, it wasn't filling in a vacuum that needed to be filled. I was kind of worried because Rodimus Primal had been doing this for a while. He was working hard at it. But Chris McFeely was coming in with all his fan base from doing the Transformers Wiki. So he would overshadow Rodimus Primal just like that, just by popping up onto the scene. And, I wanted to support, the creators who had been here the whole time. I know Rodimus Primal doesn't have an issue with this. Rodimus Primal is a very nice guy. And I was under the impression that Transformers The Basics started sort of to get in on this Transformers YouTube community that was growing, especially after Transformers lore was growing so much. And I thought Transformers The Basics coming in would have had a better effect on the YouTube community of Transformers, non-toy reviewer channels. But Transformers The Basics never really tried to get into any part of the community. It never really collaborated with anyone in the community. Not like how Diamond Bolt collaborated with Eddie Dwan and Comet and Cam. Not how Rodimus Primal and I would talk about each other and shout each other out. And Diamond Bolt too. Transformers The Basics just kind of came in and just like didn't talk to anyone who had been there for a while. And then it just took all their fandom from the Transformers Wiki side and expanded beyond that point. So I always thought that was kind of weird. But the straw that broke the camel's back was when one day I look at the Allspark forums and find this thread where the inner circle of the Transformers Wiki mods / admins are taking a look at my channel, which was called Primus Prime 22 at the time, and just kind of, talking crap about it. And looking at the way the Transformer Wiki mods talked about my channel, everything sort of was starting to fall into pieces. The dominoes were falling together for me. And it became clear that the Transformers Wiki, like I said, is the inner circle's kind of power hungry. They want that monopoly on Transformers knowledge. And Transformers Lore, my series rising up on YouTube, I believe they saw that as kind of a threat, especially because my method of historiography, my method of research, my method of putting the lore together was not their interpretation of it. They criticized my use of universal notation, even though one of the Transformer Wiki mods created universal notation, which, by the way, a lot of the Transformer Wiki mods were made official Transformers canon content with fun publications, which I always thought was weird because I believe a wiki should be a community for fans. Once you're actually writing stuff that's canon, you sort of move up from fan to creator, and I believe a wiki should be created by fans, grassroots fans. And even if you like ascended fandom, ascended fan that goes into the writing stuff, once you're writing, I don't think you should be in. But they argued about my use of universal notation, even though one of them created it, so they obviously don't do much with the concept of death of the artist. It was just more of the rude. I suddenly have food in my mouth, sorry. It was more of the rude, condescending language that I remember seeing them talk to non-mod members in the discussion pages of the Transformers Wiki. And wouldn't you know it, Chris McFeely was there, just going hard against my videos, going hard against the Oracle I was making, which was essentially a Transformers Wiki focused on deep lore stuff. Keep in mind, they're criticizing this from a Transformers Wiki mod perspective. They didn't understand the mission of Transformers lore. They didn't understand the mission of the Oracle and how it was different from what they were doing. And when I was reading through this forum, I'm like, okay, Chris McFeely, you've talked to me on Twitter. You obviously know I exist on YouTube. And even though in my earlier years on YouTube, I was a bit feisty and snappy at some other Transformer community members, I sort of had learned my lesson. And I sort of believe that, Transformer non-toy reviewer channels should sort of support each other. I completely support Diamond Bolt, Rodimus Primal, But then I'm seeing this guy who's from the TF Wiki, and not only from this guy who was sort of like my model and my hero and sort of the reason Transformers lore existed. I see this guy just taking a huge crap on my work. Who was part? It would be one thing if it's just a normal person doing criticism of my videos, whatever. But this one was my hero for a time. This is the inner circle of the Transformer Wiki mods, and this is another Transformers fiction YouTuber, a person in that community who was doing that to me. Talking about that stuff behind my back, didn't bring it up to me because he knew it was an option, So that's when I kind of realized that Chris McFeely ultimately was just like the other mods on Transformers Wiki. I am of the opinion that Transformers The Basics was started in response to Transformers lore. There was no rumblings for Transformers The Basic before Transformers lore had started to pick up the pace. I believe the Transformers Wiki inner circle felt threatened on their monopoly of knowledge for Transformers when Transformers lore came out, and ultimately started doing Transformers The Basics as a counter to that. Maybe that's presumptuous of me to believe, but I think a lot of that lines up perfectly, especially given that forum where the Transformer Wiki mods just take all the time to just lambast me for enjoying Transformers the way I enjoy it. Now, when this happened, I was I was upset, and I wanted Chris McFeely to sort of talk about this to my face. He's a member of the. We're both members of the Transformers Fiction YouTube community at that point. I'm like, why wouldn't you just talk to me about this? I tweeted at him, just telling him to DM me because I couldn't message him because his messages are set to private. He would have to message me, so I tweeted at him saying DM me, which isn't a soft way to put it. I just said DM me. But like, obviously he would know who I was, so he would know that something was up and that maybe I saw what he was saying. But that was my only way I could try to talk to him. So I said DM me. He did not. So he refused to talk to me. So ultimately, I just blocked him on Twitter. I felt what he did was very rude, very disrespectful. It was Chris McFeely who sort of made me realize how bad the Transformers community was, especially when it came to the fiction. I know I complain about the fandom a lot, and that's only about... I know when I say that, people typically think I'm talking about the comments, but the comments were really like maybe 25, maybe 50, if I'm really stretching it percent. The largest issue I had with the Transformers fandom community was the inner circle of the Transformers wiki admins and Chris McFeely. And their attitudes towards me made me realize that this wasn't a community. They wouldn't let me grow even if I tried my hardest. They would do whatever they needed to do to sort of keep me in check. So ultimately I decided that's when I stopped doing Transformers content. I didn't want to talk about this back then. Now that I feel like I'm not really part of the Transformers community anymore, I feel like the Transformers stuff is like an old chapter in my history that's firmly shut. I feel like I can talk about this more, but that was one of the main core issues with why I left, why I stopped doing Transformer videos, why I stopped being part of the Transformers fiction video community. Because it isn't a community, it's a bunch of guys trying to start off small businesses, and then McDonald's comes in and just sticks the huge franchise building just right across the street from Old Man Jenkins' little trade shop. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean like I don't want to talk to Chris McFeely. If he ever wants to talk to me, he'd have to find a way for let me to know he wants to talk to me first because he's kind of blocked. But if I hear somehow through the grapevine that he wants to talk to me and talk things out, finally, then I'm certainly open to that. It's not like I hate him or anything. Don't use this video to try to like lambaste him. I don't want that to happen. Don't do some sort of witch hunt. If I wanted to do this video for the drama, I would have named this video like Chris McFeely Exposed or something like that. Again, I'm only doing this because someone asked me about this, and I don't want to ignore good questions like that, but I don't want to give I want to give my actual opinions. And my opinion on Transformers the Basic has to be informed by all this story with Chris McFeely. Yeah, if he happens to see this, I'm open to talk, although I doubt he's going to like sort of give this a response. After all, I think the whole point was to not let me grow so much. That's the whole point of not communicating with the rest of the Transformers Fiction YouTube community. That was the point of talking behind my back. It looks like that was the point of Transformers the Basics. At least that's what it looks like from my angle, because after all, he didn't want to talk to me at all. So that's the ideas I'm left to conclude. But thank you guys for watching. If you guys have anything else you want me to talk about, any other recommendations or requests for videos, let me know. I might do them. Huge announcement video coming out on the next upload day, so stay tuned for that. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.